May 25th, 1943, England. Bassingbourn airfield wakes under a thick grey sky. The air smells of fuel, oil, and fear. Somewhere beyond the hangars, engines cough and roar to life, echoing like distant thunder. On the tarmac stands a bomber with a blue nose and a girl in a red dress painted on its side. Her name is Memphis Belle. Under the cockpit, 24 yellow bombs mark completed missions. Today, they'll paint the 25th. Captain Robert Morgan sits in the cockpit, quiet. He doesn't pray. He just stares through the frosted glass, trying to memorize the world before it disappears again. He's 24, with 24 missions behind him, and one more ahead that could be his last. Flight engineer Eugene Quinlan checks the propellers, runs a hand across the metal skin. "She'll hold," he mutters. Someone shouts from below, "If we make it through this one, Morgan's buying us a bar in Memphis." "If we make it," Quinlan grins, "I'll build it out of focke-wulf parts myself." At 9:30 the runway clears. Belle lifts her nose, 4 Wright Cyclone engines roar, and 30 tons of steel leave the earth. Ahead, Wilhelmshaven. 230 flying fortresses from the 8th Air Force climb through the morning haze. Every shadow feels like a fighter waiting. "Hold formation tight," a voice snaps over the radio. "Red leader, I see smoke." The bombardier's voice trembles. "Stay with us, Belle." "Stay tight," Morgan answers. At 6,000 metres, the air is brittle, -30 degrees. The bomber vibrates from nose to tail. Ahead, the sky blooms with white explosions. German flak. The air tastes of metal. Bullets tear past, punching holes through aluminum. "2 focke-wulfs at 3 o'clock, Quinlan yells. Machine guns hammer. Brass casings spin through the cabin. Tracers streak past the windows. One enemy fighter spirals down in smoke. The other vanishes into cloud. Belle keeps flying. Instruments flicker. The wings shudder like lungs gasping for air, but they hold. In the headset, Bombardier Vincent Nathan whispers, "Target in sight, steady, bombs away." The bomber lifts as 5,000 pounds of steel drop free. Seconds later, the city below erupts in flame. Smoke curls upward like a signal from hell. On the way back, no one speaks. They count holes in the fuselage, count the missing voices on the radio. Another fortress burns below, spinning slowly into the clouds. When Belle finally lands, the engines fall silent. The air feels too still. Morgan removes his helmet, wipes his face. 25, he says, and we all came home. A mechanic paints the 25th bomb beneath the smiling girl on the nose. She almost seems to breathe again. That morning, Memphis Belle became the first American bomber to complete 25 missions and return. The legend of the Flying Fortress was no longer just about metal. It was about the men inside. America is still crawling out of the Great Depression. In rainy Seattle, engineers at Boeing spread out a new blueprint, Model 299. Chief designer Eugene Vidal says quietly, "We'll build a plane that won't die from one hit. It must fly higher, farther, and come home even when the world is falling apart." The prototype took off on July 28, 1935. 4 Wright Cyclone engines, a massive frame, a nose like a ship's bridge. A journalist watching the flight called it a flying fortress. The name stuck. It wasn't just a machine, it was a statement. Armour plating protected the crew thick as a tank's hide. Around the fuselage, nests of machine guns. 10 gunners, 10 eyes, 10 chances to live. Inside the nose sat the Norden bomb sight, the most secret invention of its time. It allowed bombing accuracy within a few dozen metres, from 6 kilometres up. Pilots called it the Eye of God. Even with one engine gone, the B-17 could stay airborne. It could return home with half a wing. Newspapers wrote, "It's not just a bomber, it's an idea made of steel." By the time America entered the war, the Flying Fortress had become the backbone of its air force. In 1942, the 8th Air Force set up bases across England. A new plan was born. Destroy Germany's industrial heart by daylight. Daylight meant danger. No darkness to hide in. No night to protect them. "If we're going to hit a factory," said General Ira Eaker, "we damn well have to see it." Factories in Seattle, Long Beach and Vega worked day and night. Women riveted wings, painted pin-up girls, wrote names under the glass. Hell's Angel, Flying Flit Gun, Liberty Belle, Memphis Belle. Every plane was a personality, a face. When one took off, ground crews waved as if to a living friend. Weighing over 15 tons, the B-17 could carry 4 tons of bombs and fly for 10 hours straight. Pilots joked it was a plane that flies even after it stops being a plane. Often that wasn't a joke. One bomber, all American, returned from Tunisia with half its tail gone. A photographer snapped it as it landed. The headline read, "Fortresses don't fall, they just come home late." By 1943, hundreds filled the sky over Europe. For the first time, war wasn't just about the ground, it was about the air, altitude, endurance and courage. And the B-17 held that altitude. Europe's sky is alive with thunder. Below, the Ruhr Valley, the industrial lungs of Nazi Germany, Krupp, Essen, Dortmund, the place that builds Hitler's war. The 8th Air Force launches what history will call the Battle of the Ruhr. The goal, they break the factories. The price, everything. March 10th, 78 bombers from Bassingbourn head for the Ruhr. At 23,000 feet, the sun flashes off their wings, a river of silver. Flak heavy, 9 o'clock. A black wall of smoke bursts around them. Shrapnel rips into the airframes. Inside, Belle. Quinlan grips the turret handles, eyes burning from oxygen mask frost. "Steady, steady," Nathan whispers. Bombs away. A heartbeat later, the city below blooms in fire. 17 fortresses don't return. 61 limp home, wings torn, engines bleeding oil. The mission is a success and a warning. Then came Hamburg, July 26th, 1943. The air raid that would burn the sky itself. Firestorms turned oxygen into wind. The city's heat reached 800 degrees Celsius. It looked like we were flying over a volcano, wrote one pilot. For the first time, strategic bombing proved it could bend a nation's will. August 17th, 1943, Schweinfurt and Regensburg. 2 targets, 2,000 kilometres, no fighter escort. Over southern Germany, a storm of Bf-109s and Fw-190s tears into the formations. "God help us," someone whispers into the radio. Machine guns rattle endlessly. Fortresses burn, explode, fall apart. 60 bombers are lost, 550 men gone in a single day. But the factories stop. The German war machine shudders. After that, crews call the B-17 the plane that bleeds for every mile. By early 1944, the war reaches Berlin. 1,000 bombers fill the horizon. Witnesses on the ground say they covered the sun. The air itself seemed to shake. Each mission costs lives. Each wave carves a path toward victory. And through it all, the flying fortress remains, shot full of holes, yet unbroken. When Memphis Belle flies home to the United States, the others keep flying. New crews take their places. The sky doesn't rest. The B-17 is no longer just a machine. It's endurance given wings. Between missions, life runs on the rhythm of fear and habit. Crews climb out slowly, blinking in the pale English light. Some talk, some laugh, most say nothing. Belle returns with holes in her skin, but the same faces inside. Nobody says lucky, they just say coffee. Each day the line of bombers on the field gets shorter. Morgan writes in his diary, "We saw one break in half. No glory in that, just the reminder that someone has to go again tomorrow." Engineer Eugene Quinlan jokes that his position, the belly turret, is the worst seat in heaven. When rookies tremble before their first flight, he tells them, "Don't think about the sky, think about the man next to you. You'll pull the trigger easier that way." Between raids, silence feels heavier than the engine noise. Mechanics hammer plates over holes, paint new bombs under the noses. In the barracks, a map of Europe bristles with pins, each one marking a loss. At briefings, the room smells of coffee and smoke. On the map, red strings, routes, altitudes, enemy zones, and the line nobody wants to hear. Flak will be heavy. Superstitions become armour, a coin, a photo, a toy duck on Quinlan's panel. "If she doesn't fall," he says, "we won't either." In the sky, every sound is muffled. When bullets strike, the plane sighs and keeps flying. A crew from Knockout Dropper returned from Hamburg missing half a tail. "I prayed no one in the back would scream," the pilot said. Across 25 missions, Belle lost no one. A miracle of steel and chance. "Maybe luck," Morgan said later. Or maybe we had an angel on board. After each mission they drank together, pilots, gunners, mechanics, cooks. No one mentioned who didn't come back. When we're up there, Morgan said, we're all the same. Down here, we're just alive. Some feared the nights more than the days. In daylight you see the enemy. At night you only see yourself, Nathan wrote. And yet they kept flying, because the fortress demanded not heroism, only endurance, and endurance became its own kind of courage. Spring 1944, the balance of power has shifted. With long-range P-51 Mustangs escorting the bombers all the way to Berlin, the Luftwaffe no longer rules the air. March, Leipzig, then Berlin. 1,300 bombers fill the sky. They covered the sun, a German witness says. It was as if the sky itself had turned to steel. Flak still tears at them, but can't stop the tide. The fortress armadas move like weather. Slow, unstoppable. By May, newspapers in New York and London print the same headline. Berlin burns again. Victory has a sound now, the drone of engines returning home. Back in America, Memphis Belle rests in a hangar. The crew tours the country. Parades, interviews, factories. They smile for the cameras, but each man sees ghosts behind the lights. Captain Morgan tells a reporter, we're not heroes. The heroes are still up there. Over the Rhine, Quinlan says nothing. He doesn't have to. Everyone knows what he's left behind. Belle becomes a living symbol of resilience, proof that courage can be built from bolts and wings. More than 12,700 B-17s were built. Nearly half never came back. Each flight took lives. Each one pushed the war closer to its end. Photos show bombers landing with gaping holes, missing tails, shattered wings, and yet they landed. One crew said after touching down, we didn't know what kept her in the air. Maybe prayers. Maybe she just knew where home was. After the war, many fortresses were scrapped. A few survived, in museums, in movies. Memphis Belle was restored, and today she stands at the National Museum of the US Air Force in Dayton, Ohio. Visitors stop to read her name, to see the painted girl under the cockpit. They don't need to know every story. The silence around her tells enough. Epilogue. War isn't only destruction, it's endurance. The B-17 proved that steel can have a heart, and that courage doesn't always roar. It hums, steady and deep, in the sound of 4 engines refusing to quit. When the last fortress came home, the world still echoed with that sound. The roar of engines carrying men through fire and fear, the heartbeat of a machine that refused to fall. 17. The fortress that wouldn't fall. Not because it was made of metal, but because inside it were hearts that would not break.